the Indic Researchers Group for organizing this conference and also inviting me to share my thoughts here. I think it's a very timely conference on a very timely issue. And we have had two excellent, very deep presentations from Tathagat Roy ji and Pankaj Saran ji. After those extensive and presentations, I don't have much to add except to say that I agree with almost everything that they have said. Mr. Pankaj Saran talked about India's security. He also talked about the internal situation and also talked about the uncertainties surrounding the future of Bangladesh. So where does this all leave us, and what should be India's approach, and particularly in the backdrop of the atrocities that are being committed against the minorities, Hindu minority there? I think that should be something that is of concern for us and that will be discussed in this seminar. But let me share a few views, a few points, make a few points for your consideration. The first is that today we have an unstable and hostile Bangladesh. They are talking about second independence. They are talking about a new constitution. They are talking about rebuilding Bangladesh. And all the anti-India forces that you could think of are now playing out. So we have a very serious situation on our borders. Of course, the historical background was covered very well with Tathagat Roy ji. And what I could infer from what he said was that this instability, this attitude towards the minorities is nothing new. Very serious episodes have happened in the past, and I think we should expect more of it than less of it. So that's something that when our policymakers make their policies, should factor in the growing instability in the country and its impact on the region. We have to face the reality and then make our policies. Of course, the word genocide has been mentioned, atrocities has been mentioned, pogroms has been mentioned, and I think these words do describe the current situation quite well. And Indians should also, it must be bringing back the memories of 1971 when a genocide was taking place in that country. Now, we don't know where it will stop, how or what shape it will take place. Probably it is not that levels of 1971. But the situation, if they try to remake Bangladesh and unable to remake Bangladesh as a democratic, as a country which is tolerant and which is has good relations with India, then we are in for a big trouble. So I think one thing we should do is we should keep all our options open here. And these should be, of course, calibrated. And right now, what perhaps we need to do is to watch the situation very carefully, as Pankaj said, but also have good assessments. Now, often what happens is that when such instability takes place, our assessments tend to suffer because our contacts in the country or the people, they tend to diminish or tend to become only one-sided. So I think it's very important that we remain in touch with all sides and also people within the country and outside, so that we have a good assessment of what is going on. Our second issue that I think is very important is the geopolitics. It was not just a student-led movement. Students have played a role, no doubt, but there is a background to this. And I think the role of external powers cannot be disregarded. and those external powers are still very active. And their views about India has fluctuated over decades. Uh, Today we are a strategic partner. Tomorrow we may not be a strategic partner for some of them. So I think it's very important that we must make our own independent assessments and not get carried away by what is being dished out in the external media, particularly the Western media. Right now, the West is very much behind Yunus. He had a very successful and high-profile visit to the UN and to the US, where a lot of public functions were organized. So this should be a wake-up call for us that he enjoys today the support of the West. And the West is now, particularly the US, is very much today in the region, whether it is Bangladesh or is it whether it is Nepal. So now we are going to have elections in the United States shortly. Again, a very close race. We don't know what will be the outcome. And but the US policies, I think the US activism in the region, South Asian region, which has been growing, it's likely to deepen further. And today, Yunus is in that period where he enjoys their full support, and perhaps he will even get some financial support, etc., from some of these institutions. So that does not necessarily bode well for the Indian policy, but Indian policymakers will have to keep that in mind. And then we have Myanmar, which is in the throes of a civil war, which is a neighbor of both Bangladesh and of India. And there is a flow of refugees from Myanmar into India. So that's an additional factor for the Northeast, apart from what has happened in Bangladesh. So I think the situation in the Northeast and what has happened is happening in Manipur. All this is now again a new phase, and of which our security planners will have to keep in mind. Then there is developments in India-China relations. We know that Bangladesh has very close relationship with China. And now we have a kind of a thaw in India-China relations due to the recent agreements on the border. But let us just treat it as a thaw and not as something which is going to be permanent. Nothing has changed in China's mindset or in China's strategy or in China's view of the world or China's view of the region. So I think China and Bangladesh together, China will also try to take advantage of the situation that is there. And that's another problem that is for India. Again, our security planners will have to keep that in mind. Now, there is also, we have invested considerably in the last few years, particularly during Sheikh Hasina's tenure in Bangladesh, whether it is connectivity, whether it is transit, building of infrastructure, and so many other things. And that relationship did flourish, and we had a very good period of 15 years. All that is going to change, but we still have our investments there, our equities there. So what do we do with that? That will be another factor that will have to be kept in mind while in policy making, because we have a substantial economic relationship which has benefited both sides. And so I think what should we do then, really? Now, we can, at this time, we can wait and watch the situation, but in the short term, first and foremost thing is to make sure that our borders we remain vigilant on our borders, because we have almost 4,000 kilometers of borders, very porous. It's been very, inflows of refugees, etc., has taken place. So we have to have a vigilant the border. As regards the minorities and Hindus are concerned, I think we need to step up pressure internationally and talk to other people, as was also said by Mr. Thagat Royji. I think we should document these things properly. And here, I think our civil society has to play a big role. The government has to follow certain, decorum, a certain maryada of diplomacy as to how they deal with this situation, because you're dealing with a sovereign country. But the role of the civil society in India is very big and huge. And I think a seminar like what is happening today is very useful, but we should have more discussions, more documentation, more awareness about the past history, etc. And also information as to what is happening in Bangladesh with the Hindus. We should try and get that. I mean, we have a huge experience of dealing with the refugees who came from Sri Lanka, from Tibet, and so many other places. So we know how to deal with this kind of a situation. But silence is not the answer. Why, at the same time, I think since it's a very sensitive issue, we have to be restrained in what we say, but at the same time, firm in what we say and what we do. So that's also, I think, important in how we deal with the situation. And finally, I think in the wait and watch mode that we are in, and we should be, and I think the government has played its cards very well. Let's, as Ambassador Pankaj Saran said, there's economic situation is pretty bad, and it's going to get worse. They are in a downward spiral. And the political instability that is there, and the talk of making a new constitution, etc., is only going to make the economic situation even worse. And as we have seen in the case of Sri Lanka, in the case of Maldives, Nepal, etc., the neighbors, despite whatever their politics is, when there is a situation, they come to India. And I think that is going to repeat. But it has not happened so far because there is, I think, this euphoria about the change and euphoria about the support, international support for so-called democracy, for this Nobel Prize winner, etc. But soon the reality will bite, and there will be an approach to India. And I think we should wait for that moment and then decide what we have to do. So India has multiple options. Bangladesh is a very important neighbor. There's no one single factor which decides all our policies. There are multiple factors which are political, economic, people to people, the minorities issues that was mentioned, the geopolitics, etc. So the policy which is going to be made has to take on board all these factors. So knee-jerk reactions need to be avoided, and I think as was mentioned by perhaps Mr. Satya Purukuri, we need a coordinated and strategic approach on this. And we should not lose our calm or cool. But at the same time, I think this is the time to work out all our options, the toolkit, and see how we can deal with it. It's not a situation we have not dealt with earlier or in other parts of the region. Today, India is far better equipped, far better resourced, and we have a strong, determined